Hello again, everyone, and welcome once more to Spinistry Live. Sort of. I am reporting to you from Black Mesa State Park in Oklahoma, the highest point in Oklahoma. Well, somewhat. Black Mesa is the highest point in Oklahoma. Black Mesa State Park is several miles away from Black Mesa proper, but not a bad little state park and a pretty gorgeous little area. Happen to be out this way scouting some ideas we have in mind for another super long adventure was the original plan. We'll talk about that some more in depth here. But after being out here got in late yesterday afternoon, did a touch of scouting, really just getting familiar with the area and getting camp set up and all that. And was out and about all day today to scout some stuff I had mapped out. And quite frankly, I'm pretty darn impressed. We are in the middle of nowhere, no doubt about it. So it's going to be tough to justify a traditional Spinistry event out this way. Don't think we could get the regular gravel grinder crowd just to drive 8 or 10 hours, 5 or 6, even if you're coming from Denver or something like that. But I do think there is a possibility of a weekend long event of some sort. There's definitely enough really, really cool roads out here. Just absolutely amazing, quite frankly. And there are sections that are extremely tough, but it's one of those things that the toughest sections have the biggest payoffs, and it's not constantly this super tough stuff. It's actually a lot of really good, fairly gentle riding through some amazing scenery. It just so happens though that if you want to connect those scenic pieces together, sometimes you have to hop up over a mesa or a mountain or something like that. So there may be a few switchbacks involved here and there, sort of thing, but just amazing sights, amazing views, outstanding wildlife, just everywhere. I'm pretty amazed at what I've come across out here. Let me just walk you through the thought process on how we got here, how this came about, and quite frankly, I really don't have any idea where it's going yet. Maybe some of y'all listening to this can give me some feedback and help me come up with some maybe original ideas, or some of my ideas that I might throw out there spitballing, throwing stuff up against the wall. You say, well, that's almost there, but if you tweaked it just like this, Kevin, you might be onto something. I definitely appreciate feedback like that. Well, let's start at the beginning. But first, we do want to say thank you to one of our tremendous partners that helped us get out here to New Mexico. Tommy's High Tech Auto Repair out of Denton. Got the Jeep dialed in and tuned up and ready to go. And let me tell you, the Jeep has been doing what a Jeep is supposed to do out here. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Without Tommy's High Tech keeping the thing running like a top, and without just having a Jeep itself, don't think I would have made it back to camp tonight, to be honest with you. The Jeep had to do what a Jeep does quite a bit today, and that was pretty danged fun and cool, and y'all are going to get the payoff from that. So thank you, Tommy's High Tech in Denton. All right, so here's how this came about. And just like all of my mad scientist projects, there's no one inspiration. It's a little bit that comes from here, a little bit of bleed over from there. An idea somebody else throws at me gets tossed into the mix. We, throw it all in the Vegematic, and out pops something. And hopefully it's not raw tuna casserole or something like that. So the original concept came from me wanting to start extending the rat route. So as it is, the traditional route going east to west starts in Arkansas, goes into Texas, picks up a little dash of Oklahoma, just for a couple pretty cool little pieces, and it helps us get to the state park, Eisenhower State Park area. Comes back into Texas and finishes in New Mexico. Realistically, we just touch a little bit of Arkansas, touch a little bit of Oklahoma, spend a fair amount of time, half a day, in New Mexico, and get a really nice taste for what New Mexico has to offer. And anyone that hadn't been out this way, New Mexico is pretty dang cool from an outdoorsy perspective. So my original idea was, well, we'll extend the rat westward across New Mexico. And quick sidebar here. If there are funny noises in the background, I'm doing this from my tiny little micro camper from Runaway Campers. And the air conditioner's running. And yes, I do appreciate air conditioning. There's no doubt about that. So you may be picking up some air conditioning noise in the background. My guess is it'll be less background noise than Rich and I driving down through the panhandle. And that will come into play a little bit further into this conversation. So my first concept was to start extending the rat one state at a time. And I was going to start with New Mexico and go east to west across New Mexico. And then we'd have an even more multi-state route. And then maybe I would go back to the east and go either across Arkansas or down into Louisiana and across Louisiana or something like that. So that's what I was thinking as a general concept, to one state at a time, maybe extend the rat nationwide. Well, started playing with that idea a couple of years ago and started looking at the maps, and New Mexico was it was impossible to go east to west across New Mexico. There's a lot of factors that come into play. There's just not a lot of roads. And then a lot of the time when there are roads, they are interstates. That's what gets across New Mexico. There are vast areas of New Mexico that are nothing. And the nothing includes no roads. Sometimes there's a road for a little while through the nothing, but then you start getting into tribal lands and stuff like that as well. That makes it, that's another issue that has to be addressed and dealt with one way or another. But the short story is there might as well just be a wall going up the middle of New Mexico as far as connecting dirt roads east to west is what I found so far. And a few other people have kind of looked at it too, and I think that's where we pretty much ended up. Cut to what I alluded to a couple minutes ago. Rich and I coming back from Trinidad a few weeks ago. We were up there scouting for our mule train event, which I'm on my way to now. We're having that this weekend. And I took a couple days ahead of the mule train to do a little bit of scouting for future events on the way. Two birds with one stone. Y'all have heard me talk about that before. And so anyway, Rich and I were scouting some stuff around Trinidad. And we had also looked at some stuff from what I had called a backdoor route into Trinidad, basically coming up from the Capulan volcano and going through some stuff. I'd mapped that out a while ago to play with when Jan Bennett and myself went up there to do the original scouting for Trinidad. The day we chose to drive up was the day after evidently the biggest rain southern Colorado had in forever. So we started scouting the backdoor roads and they were just too muddy, even in a F-250 diesel 4x4. It was just, as long as we stayed just on the main dirt road, we were okay. There were parts of that were questionable as well, but any of the offshoots that were going to be this back door were just nasty peanut butter that we didn't want to put a 12,000 pound truck down, or however the thing weighs. It's big, and I didn't want to get stuck in the middle of nowhere. So Jan B and myself, we weren't able to scout the back door that trip. So that was part of Rich's and mine's as one of our top of the bucket list outside of the primary scouting, was we wanted to check on the back door route. And that day the roads were dry, and we were in Rich's car, his Subaru Outback, which is a very nice car and pretty good at scouting dirt roads, but it does have its limitations. And just as we were about to catch the back door to Trinidad off of that main dirt road, basically the same spot that Jan B and I got turned around, Rich ended up with a flat tire, basically right on the state line between New Mexico and Colorado. And there was also a big old thunder boomer coming right at us, and we knew we didn't want to be on those roads in a thunderstorm, particularly in a Subaru Outback. Realistically, if I'd have been in the Jeep, probably would have gone for it, but the Outback is not peanut butter capable, I don't think, especially down a spare tire already. So, very short story long, we have not scouted the back door still. That is top of my agenda for probably tomorrow. That was my original plan. But also my original plan was to be in Sugarite Canyon State Park tonight instead of Black Mesa State Park. But I started finding so much cool stuff around here that I actually just opted to stay all 3 nights in Black Mesa State Park. No small part of that is because Thursday night wasn't sure where I was staying anyway. All the state parks were full for 4th of July and Balloon Fest and all the other good stuff that's going around Raton and Trinidad and whatever else is going on 4th of July weekend, like the Mule Train. So I was able to get all 3 nights here, and that way I didn't have to mess with breaking down and setting up camp each day. It's like, makes more sense just to go ahead and spend all 3 nights at Black Mesa and then head over to Trinidad Friday morning and mark course. And I know some of you are thinking, well, gee, Kevin, that sounds like the perfect time to actually check your back door into Trinidad route. But that would entail pulling my camper through the back door route, and I don't think that's a good plan. So I'll probably head towards Trinidad tomorrow on a very mellow pace. Break out the camera, take some pictures, take some time to do some of that stuff. I think today I probably put 300, 400 miles of dirt roads. Some of it really crazy stuff on the Jeep. Had a blast, but didn't have time to take too many pictures. And no Facebook Live updates either, as much as I was wanting to. Couldn't even do much Instagramming. Data was little and far between, and even in my camper in the campsite here, no data. There is Wi-Fi in the park from a couple of spots. They don't reach to where my camper is, and I did walk over to a picnic table that was right in the meat of it and had the strongest signal. But I guess everybody that's camping is on Wi-Fi right now. I couldn't even get Gmail to load. I was hoping to maybe just map out some of the extra stuff I saw, or some of the stuff that I had mapped out that was going to originally be a point-to-point route. Now I'm thinking we can make a weekend event of several loops back to the backdoor route into Trinidad and some of the other stuff in Trinidad that we found. I kind of figured out that, hey, Capulet Volcano is kind of, I bet I can connect the dots from the Rat route to Capulan and then get to Trinidad. So we could extend the Rat to Trinidad. And that was my original concept. It's like, hey, that's kind of cool. Mapped out some stuff, and it doesn't go from Tucumcari to Trinidad. It actually goes out from San Juan and north up to Capulan and then up to Trinidad. So I still need to scout the San Juan to Capulan stuff. I may do that tomorrow. I'm leaning towards actually just going ahead and just checking out the between Capulan and Trinidad backdoor route and taking my time and enjoying everything. So I threw that out there first. It's like, hey, we're gonna extend the Rat up to Colorado. Isn't that cool? And I kind of like that. And then I got to thinking about it. It's like, maybe we could make a big old loop of it and take it up to Trinidad and back down through Oklahoma and end up back on the Rat route somewhere. So I started playing with it, putting pieces together, finding some really interesting stuff, and that's how we ended up in this Black Mesa area. Probably end to end, probably the most interesting stuff is in this area for what would be the route that I sketched out from Trinidad to Gainesville, Texas, is what I have right now. That's basically another 1,000 miles added to the Rat route. Don't really expect anyone to do the Rat and then this whatever this Trinidad triangle route is. But there is some feasibility of just a different big loop that incorporates part of the Rat route on the south end and then this 1,000 miles. So that's probably, I haven't put all of it together, so I don't know what the mileage would be all told, but it's probably in the 1,500-1,600 mile range, something like that, maybe 1,400. I'll have to break out the segments and look at it. That's a lot of miles. There's no doubt about it. Somebody will do it. Probably too much to try to build an event around. But I got up here in this area, and just this core right around Black Mesa. There's a lot of cool stuff. And you can string it together in obviously a myriad of different ways. And that's what I was trying to get on the internet tonight to do was to play with the maps and say, well, what if I put this piece together with that piece and brought it back here to the state park? Could we do a 50-mile loop that way? And could we do a 100-mile? I mean, obviously I can string it all together, and we have, I don't know, like I said, 300 or 400 miles right around here. And it all actually kind of ends up going together in a crazy loop. But again, that's not realistic, I don't think. But it may be realistic for a long weekend. Kind of like Dirty Fury, do 3 75 to 100 mile days or something like that, and hit the best of everything. So that's kind of the spitball idea right now around Black Mesa, the Black Mesa area. Very, very, very cool. Very, very cool riding, no doubt about it. This is not going to be a cross bike or light adventure bike type ride, though. I wouldn't say a mountain bike is a requirement by any means. There's going to be sections where anybody that happens to be on a 29er or maybe even a full suspension mountain bike will go, oh, glad I brought this for this part. But those are short sections and few and far between. If you're riding a full squish bike on this thing, you're gonna pay lots of other penalties on the longer traditional gravel sections. But there are short sections that, if somebody's doing it on, like a loft true grit or something like that, they're probably going to walk a few sections. This is probably a natural cutthroat bike route. Cuddy will probably be about as good all around bike as anything. Fargo wouldn't be bad either. Anything that can take a 2-inch plus tire. There will probably be sections. I don't know these roads well enough to say for certain. There were sections that looked to me like they could definitely get sandy. That said, I've come across stuff like that before. It's like, that's going to get sandy, and it never gets any more sandy. It's just that top layer that's a little loose, and it never gets any sandier than that. So I don't know this area that well yet, so I can't say for certain if sand's going to be a factor. The pretty sure a fat bike will be overkill though. Again, like the full suspension mount bike, there may end up being parts where you would love to be on a fat bike, but the other 98% of the route you'll probably hate to be on a fat bike, would be my guess. Maybe a plus bike. I think a plus bike would be really, really good. If I had to pick any bike right now to ride it with, it would probably be a cutthroat with as big a tires as I could put on it, and a loft fork. That would probably be the direction I would go. I don't have that, so I would have to run what I brung. So if I were to choose from what I have, it would definitely be the Trilingua with the 27.5 tires on it. They get pretty beefy. I think they're almost 2-inch. That would be a really nice sled on this as well. And I'd probably throw the loft fork on it as well. So that wouldn't be a bad ride. Sorry, off daydreaming, thinking what I would like to ride. I wouldn't mind riding my Stella with the 27.5 plus on it. That'd be pretty actually comfortable. And since I don't race, since I'm slow as Christmas, I really wouldn't be bothered by the speed penalty on that. But that wouldn't be what you would want to race it on. A hardtail 29 or a hardtail plus bike with some aero bars for the longer gravel sections, that would actually be a pretty good bike. A Tour Divide bike would be a good bike on this stuff, no doubt about it. Hello again, everyone, and welcome to round 2. I did cut off last night, kind of midstream of consciousness. The Benadryl started to kick in, and I was getting kind of lazy and running out of things to say, so we're going to go ahead and splice the next night's conversation in. Because there's really not much else for me to do around here before falling asleep. The flies and mosquitoes are extra thick, so hanging out outside isn't exactly pleasant. And I think, like I mentioned before, there's really no internet connectivity, so and not for playing on the internet. I actually have a lot of work I need to get caught up on, and I'm kind of stressing over that a little bit. Stuff needs to get caught up, and not sure when that's going to happen. And I was in somewhat of a Benadryl fog as I was speaking last night, so I can't remember exactly what all I shared and where we left off, but I think I have a general gist. So I'll go ahead and, so this is Thursday, 4th of July. Happy Independence Day, everyone. Went out and about today and got a lot more done than I was really thinking I would last night. Thought I was going to have a casual day today and just scout one little segment and maybe just relax. And realistically, once I started going down the road, I just wanted to keep seeing what was around the next bend. So what I ended up doing was going due south out of the state park, because there's actually a dirt road just as you leave the state park that I wanted to see how that tied into things, and it was going in the general direction to go ahead and head towards San Juan and do the San Juan leg on up to Capulan Volcano. And I figured, okay, I'll just go ahead and do that south leg, and I'll do the Trinidad backdoor, kind of like that, the Trinidad backdoor sometime over the weekend. I'll be in Trinidad all weekend. I'll find a way to fit that in. So I chose to not go quite all the way to San Juan. So if anybody wants to scout the segment for me from San Juan to Logan, hey, I would really appreciate it. I think it's pretty straightforward. If I remember right, it's like 2 roads. It just goes straight from San Juan to Logan for the most part. I don't think that's going to be anything earth-shattering by any means, but technically speaking, I haven't checked all of the route yet. So I started in Logan and made my way up to several little crossroads, hardly any towns along the way, and to be honest with you, I wasn't expecting a lot from this leg. I knew there would be a couple sections that might be kind of neat and things like that. But it was pleasantly surprised would be quite an understatement. I was pretty much blown away by a lot of this route. I really, really, really like it. There's this one road that's ended up being, and I had no way of knowing this till I got on it, but it's an old railroad bed, and it's carved through the rock in the canyon, and it's a really neat stretch of road. Another stretch of road goes through the grasslands, and I was expecting that to be a lot like the Rat on top of the Cap Rock, and just flat and boring and dull. And these roads were pretty straight and went on forever, but it was just kind of an undulating, no huge hills or anything like that, but just this nice rhythmic flow through a very pastoral setting. It was really, really neat. Went on for a long ways like that. And then the finish up towards Capulan, the Capulan Volcano, which I've seen that many times, and I kind of expected that to be the highlight once we got up towards that end of that leg of the route. But realistically, maybe the 10 or 15 miles just before that were winding through some other old volcanoes and small mountains. It was really neat, really, really neat. The route that I had mapped out was 99.875% rock solid. There were a couple of just very short little dead ends, for lack of a better term. I think probably you could have still gone on them. A lot of the route today through New Mexico, this was pretty interesting. New Mexico's county roads, some of them are barely wagon trails. They're not, I wouldn't even call them double track. You can see where four-wheeled vehicles have been down them previously. That said, they're solid. They're not chewed up in mud or anything like that. But just so little use on them. I probably covered 400 miles today, rough guess. And outside of city limits, town limits, I maybe saw 3 cars all day long. And most of those are on what New Mexico calls state highways, which some of their state highways are the coolest dirt roads I've ever seen. These are state highways, and they're 55 mile an hour, technically speaking. Not too many people are going to go for that fast on them. But they're gravel roads, and they're winding through some of the most majestic and beautiful country imaginable. It was pretty cool. So they're, New Mexico's state highways are, nice gravel roads. So obviously some of their county roads are, barely going to be paths through the grasslands sort of thing. There's a lot of gates that I've opened and closed behind me, and that's generally the rule of thumb. It's not uncommon for county roads to have gates across them, to keep livestock in and stuff like that if there's no cattle guards. So the rule of thumb is if you're on a public road and you come across a closed gate, go on through it, just close it behind you. If you come across an open gate, just leave it open. Leave the gates as you find them, because that's the way they're intended to be used at that time. And everyone in New Mexico so far that I've come across on the county roads, property owners and people on the roads and things like that, everyone in New Mexico has been very, very friendly and welcoming me to on the county roads, which makes sense. They're public roads. And some of the gates were a little tricky, and one guy explained, well, on the third gate you're going to need to do it this way, the fourth gate you're going to need to do it that way. My experience in Texas on similar type roads and properties and gates has not been the same. It's not uncommon in Texas, and maybe in other parts of New Mexico. Maybe I've just got lucky and everybody's happy for Independence Day weekend. In Texas, it's quite common for property owners around county roads, public roads, to treat them as their own private roads, and they'll gate them and they'll chase you down. And what are you doing on my land? Hey, this is a county road. Well, the gate was closed. Why'd you come on my land? Well, it's a county road. And you go round and round in circles, and finally they got to admit, yeah, it's a county road. I got to let you here, even though I don't want to. New Mexico people were completely the other way around. They were open arms, and told them what we were thinking about doing, scouting a bicycle route, and everyone was really friendly and offered suggestions. Well, maybe you want to go check out this road, and da 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 da. So New Mexico's been very, very cool. So I'm looking forward to showing off some of the stuff I found to everyone along those lines. So we did that San Juan to Capulan volcano leg. And last night I left off, whichever leg I did, San Juan to Capulan or Capulan volcano to Trinidad backdoor, I would do one today and save the other for another time. Well, I got to Capulan volcano, and curiosity was just getting the best of me, and so I had to check out the Trinidad backdoor route. I had to check it out. But I was in somewhat of a quandary. I was in Capulan, and I had a little bit less than half a tank of gasoline, which sounds like a lot, but my experience around here the last few days has been that gas stations are extremely few and far between. Realistically, if nothing went wrong, I should have had plenty of gas to take the back door into Trinidad. My quandary was, if something did go wrong, if I got 3/4 of the way there and that didn't work out for some reason, and then I had to turn around and come back to gosh knows where, I may not have enough gasoline to get to Trinidad in that case. So I opted to go ahead and take State Road 72, which basically parallels the Colorado-New Mexico border from essentially Capulan volcano. You go north a little bit, and then you hang a left at Folsom, and then you just follow 72 all the way to Raton. And I knew in Raton there would be gasoline there, and then what I could do is I could hop, skip, and jump up to Trinidad, and then take the backdoor route backwards from Trinidad, which would get me pointed back to where I had the camper parked anyway. So that was my plan of attack. On the way out of Capulan, I had to check this one dirt road loop that I found on the maps that prior to yesterday and having all the good encounters with property owners in New Mexico, I was kind of concerned. It was marked as a county road, but it looked like it really didn't go anywhere. It was just a big loop into the woods, and there was a house right at the farthest point out of the loop. So I thought it might be one of those roads that was treated like a private road sort of thing. But I went ahead to go check it out because I knew it was a county road, and worst that could happen is I'd say, okay, sorry, I thought it was a county road, I'll turn around and go back. So I start going down this dirt road, and when I hang a left, GPS says follow county road such and such for 5.5 miles. It's like, oh, 5.5. Looking at the maps, I didn't look at the exact mileage of the loop. I didn't expect it to be 5.5 miles. I was expecting maybe 2 miles, sort of thing. It's like 5.5 miles. Oh, that's a little bit longer than I thought. It might be more interesting than I was expecting. But it's just mostly just to cut off a little bit of pavement. And I started going down this dirt road, and it's short story, already too long. We'll shorten it back up. It was an amazing dirt road, and the loop worked fine. The house was down at the end like I thought it was, but the county road turned in front of their driveway, and you just kept following the loop. It was a really, really cool dirt road, tight, twisty through the woods, downhill, but it went towards the west off of the Capulan Volcano Highway, and there was a really cool Palisades wall formation back in there that I think I've seen from the highway before in the distance. I can't remember for certain, but this got pretty darn close to it, so it was a really good view, really pretty back there. It was a great dirt road, so I'm really glad I threw that into the mix as well. So then hopped on 72, and I've never taken 72 all the way into Raton yet. So if for nothing else, it's like I'll play it safe, make sure I have enough gasoline, and I'll check out 72 anyway and see what the road's like. 2-lane state highway, 55 miles an hour most of the way, and really, really, really pretty road. And it had a couple of fantastic drop off to the right that you could see down the Mesa sides. You could just see it just over there sort of thing, but there was a barbed wire fence about a quarter of a mile, and you could just see this huge chasm gap with these what was obviously stunning views, but I guess it was all private property, and there was no way to get there. That's somebody I may have to make friends with, because just what I could glance from the roadway, it was I've got something for those huge vertical stone faces on mesa tops and things like that, canyons or things like that. Just really get into my soul, just really excite me, and that was I got to find a way to get in there, and so we're gonna be breaking out, and that's that's why I'm jonesing for the internet. It's like all this stuff. I really want to look close at the maps and see if I can find some. Maybe there is a dirt road that dead ends into that, but at least I can see it up close, sort of thing. Made it to Raton and went on up to Trinidad before I stopped to get some gas, and got into Trinidad, well under a quarter of a tank, and that was going the short, easy way. So I'm definitely glad I went that route. The back door worked well. I'll go into that in a little bit more detail. There were no issues with it, but I know that if I would have followed the back door, I would have started getting nervous towards the end of it, because the gas would have been getting a little too low for safety's sake, just in case something did go wrong. So I'm glad I did it that way. Peace of mind helps a lot on stuff like that. So took the back door backwards. Very, very, very cool stretch basically from Trinchera Pass to Trinidad, or vice versa, the way I did it today. So there are stretches where you can see that mesa I was talking about going over on 72 towards Raton. You could see the mesa face a good distance away from it, but really stunning views still. A couple of good climbs in there, a couple of good descents, but mostly pretty flat and very nice winding, curving contour of the land road that goes on for 18-20 miles, something like that. Really neat. I'm really happy with that backdoor route into Trinidad. One more road I have to check out that Rich and I came across before he got the flat tire, that may actually be one of those county roads that's blocked off and treated as a private road. Rich and I turned around from the New Mexico side going up, because the road that showed on the map wasn't there anymore, but there was a newer road that went into what looked like a gated thing. But today, coming back the back door, I came in down the Colorado side, and the road was where it was supposed to be, and there was a gate, but it was just a closed gate without a lock. It just had a chain wrap on it. If I'd had a little bit more time, I probably would have gone ahead and opened the gate and just gone down it and see what I ran into. But next time I'm out this way, I'll give that one a look. I'll probably look at the maps one more time just to be safe. And maybe I'll drag Rich along with me and throw him to the wolves if somebody comes after us, because I can throw him out of the car and I can go faster than him, I think. So backdoor was fantastic as well. That one was the Trinidad backdoor one had the best gravel I've ever seen on anything. It was a lot like the Fort Worth Trinity Trail, very fine packed gray gravel on most of it. But then when we went over the line, I don't know if it's a county line or what. It has to be a county line. It's the only thing I can think of. One county, the Trinidad County, does it one way, and I'm guessing whatever county Trinchera's in does it a slightly different way. And the Trinchera side, it was fine today. The roads were dry, but you could see where it gets chewed up in the mud, where the other side was just perfectly packed and smooth and fine grained gravel. And Jan Bennett's going to remember what the non-Trinidad County, how their road maintenance was, because that was pretty iffy. We turned down one of them in her truck, and I think we made it 2 truck lengths in, maybe 3, and we knew we weren't going to be able to go any further, even with a 4-wheel drive truck. And we even had a dickens of a time backing back up to the main road, the hard pack road, with that. So really excited about what we have from San Juan to Trinidad. Definitely, I'm excited about the stuff we have that I'm calling the Black Mesa area, but there's a lot of overlap around Trinchera Pass on some of that stuff as well. That said, today was Led Zeppelin Day, and whenever I had data coverage, I just listened to Led Zeppelin all day. That gave me the inspiration of what to do with this route. So this will be the going to California route. So we've got it from Texarkana to San Juan and then up to Trinidad. And we're going to make our way to California going west, one way or another. Don't know what that looks like, past Trinidad yet. But we're going to California, and we're going to figure out how to tie it together in the best way. At some point, we'll turn around and start heading east, and it'll probably start in Florida somewhere, most likely. But going to California has begun. Going to go ahead and sign off now.